No, not another 3D Castlevania.
Hideo Review.
Welcome back to once again another Castlevania Diary, looking at another 3D Castlevania. But I'm going to just start off right away and say, this is a good game. This is the first good 3D Castlevania game. And in fact, this is one of my this is a hidden gem on the PlayStation 2. You can't see it, but the PlayStation 2 is one of the most iconic platforms for me. It's when I actually had money as a teenager. I was actually able to buy games. I bought a lot of games. The PlayStation 2 has one of the biggest libraries. And somehow this game, even though I wasn't dabbling in Castlevania back in the day, has flown under the radar because I haven't heard anyone talk about it. And it's good. It's a really good, fun game. And it came out at the end of the PlayStation 2 life cycle, which is why I think it kind of flew under the radar. And we're going to dive into it, though. We're going to talk about what's so good about this thing. So, where to even start? All of the lessons that were in that were learned or experimented with in Lament of Innocence were pretty much improved in Curse of Darkness. The combat is smooth. The camera, you can actually move the camera around. I remember I had to fight, and I didn't like fighting in Lament of Innocence. The only thing that you were rewarded with for fighting, if I recall correctly, was you could potentially learn a new technique from time to time, but I don't think you could level up. In this one, you can level up, which means the grind is actually kind of fun, and the combat is kind of fun. So there's a lot of good stuff there. And then when it comes time you can experiment with your combat. So you have four base weapons that you can choose from. You have your knuckles, which screw that. We're not fighting with our fists. We're using weapons. Then there is the short sword or any sword, short sword, long sword, any sword. That's a weapon. That's what I like. You have the axes, don't like those, too slow. And then you have the spears, don't like those, too slow. Like he's just like whipping this thing all around. He looks like the Star Wars kid with a lightsaber. And then outside of the combat, so the combat also, okay, I guess no, not outside of the combat. Let's stay in the combat, talk about familiars. So outside of just mashing the button and killing things, this game adds an element of Pokemon, if you will, which are through the Innocent Devils, aka a familiar. So as you progress through the story, you unlock, I think, up to 5 different types of Innocent Devils, and each of them have a different attribute. Some of them are more geared towards magic, some are more defensive and healing properties, and some help you with battle and strength. Now, I didn't learn until the very last battle in the game that these Innocent Devils, when they come out, they also buff you as a main character. So when you pull out your battle type, your strength is going to go up and your hits are going to make more damage. That was not a good thing to learn at the end, because I really learned the mechanics of the Innocent Devil after I went up against the final boss, which, come on, we all know who it is at this point. And I was level 50, which is one of the highest levels I've ever been in a Castlevania game. And I got destroyed for a good hour nonstop. So I'm like, okay, I gotta go grind. I gotta get stronger. I'm gonna grind to level 60. And while I did that, that's when I realized and recognized the difference with the strength depending on who I had out. I was like, why am I not doing damage when this guy's out, but I'm doing a lot of damage when this guy's out? And that's when I learned, oh my god, you can do, they buff you. And then there's a lot of depth to these Innocent Devils. And I have to say, Castlevania gimmicks, for lack of a better word, I rarely dive deep into it. And once again, this one I was running through it so fast. If I had not gone troubles with the final boss, I would have never have really dived into the Innocent Devil mechanic too much. But here, I got to experience it more. So as you kill things, if you kill things with your sword, you get these little red gem things that upgrade your Innocent Devil in the red skill tree, if you will. And then they learn certain abilities and transforms, aka evolve, into different forms if you go that way. If you use your axe, it's going to go in a different direction in the green branch. And if you use the spear, it's going to go in the blue branch. So I am a heavy sword user, so all of my Innocent Devils all went 100% in the red path. But for someone who has more time on their hands and is more interested in experimenting, you can go red, green, blue, or just green, 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 or green, blue, green. You can play around and see what kind of Innocent Devil works out for you. And then as they level up, they lay some eggs. And then you can take these eggs and you can bring them out in battle, and they will have different base stats. So if you really like, for example, me, I really like the combat familiar. or innocent devil, and I took his egg and I was like, let's level up this egg to the same level as my original. And I was like, oh, now this new one has a bit less strength but has more magic and so they have different things, so you can actually grind your innocent devils and get all sorts of different loadouts depending on who you want. And I have to say, as some of you, as you should know by now, I stream all of this. And you can also name your innocent devils, which is a fun feature. And for my last innocent devil, I actually named it, shout out to Ryan, who is a viewer on stream and who took one for the team. And I named one of my little fairies after him. And it all started off as a joke because Ryan couldn't learn shit and was useless. But hey, Ryan pulled through, he learned his healing spell, and it's thanks to him that I was able to beat the final boss. So thank you, Ryan, for being a good sport and being an amazing fairy. All right, outside of the familiars, so that's what we got. We got weapons, familiars, crafting. Let's talk about crafting. As well as dropping all this food for your familiars, there's also materials that drop from different enemies, different metals, stuff like that. You can use that in a crafting system, which I absolutely love in this one. So when you gain the materials you need to craft something, your menu is going to show that, hey, you can craft something now, and it's going to have question marks, so you don't know what you're going to craft. You just know if you go in the sword menu, oh, there's a new sword option available that you can craft. And it was always fun to kind of just discover randomly, oh, I can craft something new, I can craft some armor, a new helmet, and then to see that oftentimes it was actually a very useful thing that I could use and equip right away. Love the crafting system. It went very well with the combat and the familiars. The whole thing just perfect. Outside of that, to accentuate the whole thing, great music too. There's some like really intense battle music. Running around all of the areas was good. So actually grinding with fun mechanics, good music, a decent camera. It's PlayStation 2 era, still decent camera. It's just a really good experience. And if you've never played it, oh my God, you gotta try it. Like even if you're just into hack and slash games and you don't care about Castlevania, well, I don't know why you'd be watching this. Play it. And if you've skipped this for whatever reason, go find an old PS2, play it. I will say, where it is weak, it is the graphics. The graphics are super bland. It looks like you're running through the same room over and over again. It doesn't win any points for graphics. It's just bad. In fact, I got lost a lot of times when after I would finish a boss, there'd be like a little piece of lore, and then they just drop you back, and they're like, all right, do whatever you want. And I kid you not, at one point I got so lost, I went all the way back to the beginning of the game, and I must have spent a half hour to realize, I looked up a walkthrough and like, just go in this room, which was back at the beginning of where I was. So I went all the way back to the beginning of the game and back to like 5 chapters of where I was. I got lost a lot of times in this game because it's big, it also lacks direction, and everything looks the same. So loses points there. Now, when it comes to the lore is good. And I know people say Lament of Innocence is the beginning of all Castlevania, and that's like the root of lore. I really preferred the lore in this one. You're not really dabbling with the Belmonts, although our good boy here, Trevor, makes an appearance, one of my favorite Belmonts. But you actually play as a Devil Forge Master, which is kind of new in the Castlevania lore. They're a big part of the Castlevania Netflix show. I'm really surprised they didn't go deeper with the Devil Forge Masters in any other Castlevania games. Here you play as one and you're pretty much trying to chase another one, and their lore is really interesting. And in fact, this game takes place 5 years after Castlevania 3 on the NES, so it's cool to play like back in that original era, now in 3D, seeing Trevor rendered in a whole, he doesn't look like this. I prefer this render. So I way prefer the lore here. In fact, it's probably some of my favorite lore in any Castlevania game outside of, the one that has Richter or Symphony of the Night. And then what else do we have? We've got the fighting. I guess I was supposed to talk about this, but when I'm fighting bosses, by the way, the bosses were all good. The final one was hard as balls, but it's good because it made me go back, grind, and learn new things about the game, and then I was able to beat it. But there's a few battles where you're going to fight some humans, I'm not going to say who, and it requires precision in your combat where you have to actually like let the enemy attack you. And it's pretty much dodge, block, and then you attack them. And it's just kind of a pattern. And if you don't do that, you're going to get destroyed. But once that clicks, it's just so satisfying because you kind of like see the animation cue, you know to dodge, you know to block, and then you hit them back with it. Really cool stuff. That's essentially some of the high. Those are all the high points I have of this game. It's just an old fun game. I almost 100%ed. There's actually a side tower which I stumbled into that I did one tower. I didn't do the second tower. That one's like for the extra grindy people. Overall, I had a really good time with this game, and I did not expect that because the last 3D Castlevania games were on the N64 and Lament of Innocence, and they really suffer from early 3D era design that just really hurt. Oh, last thing. So when you beat the game, you of course unlock the bonus content, and in the bonus content, you get to play with good old pal Trevor, and you also unlock crazy mode, but I'm not playing that. Get out of here. So with Trevor, you get to play with, of course, his signature whip. Should be down there. And just like every other Castlevania game, that end game content is always just such a treat to play as a fully buffed up Belmont. It really makes you appreciate Belmonts on a level that you didn't until they stopped letting you play as Belmonts, and you have to unlock it when they're just super souped up. So overall, really good game. Best 3D. Remember, we got our 3 pillars of classic Castlevania, Metroidvania, 3D Castlevania. This one takes the top of 3D Castlevania, and I don't think it can really be beaten because the only other 3D games are Lords of Shadow, and some of you will argue that's not true Castlevania. I'm going to say it is. We'll see when we get there. But for now, Curse of Shadows, Curse of Darkness, I always get the two mixed up, takes the top spot. And the next one, we're going to go and wrap up the original Castlevania lore, the original Castlevania universe with Castlevania Order of Ecclesia, which was the last proper Castlevania game that was released before they kind of went into a whole new story universe with Lords of Shadow. So I hear that one's going to be a tough one. Not looking forward to it. But I'll see you then on the next Castlevania Diary. And until then, keep it classy.